What is going on, my friends? I want to thank you for stopping by. You got Sturkules here with my recap of my team for the Pokemon Grand Order. This is for Season 4 for the Rider Division. So the PGO, or the Pokemon Grand Order, actually had 4 divisions this year. I got put in the Rider Division, which unfortunately was the lowest of the divisions. I applied for the league. Haven't played with anyone in this league before, so I do have to say, they haven't seen me play before. I got to cut them some slack. And no offense to anyone else who's in the division, but as a competitive guy, I gotta be honest, I was a little annoyed to be put in the lowest division, but I know it's nothing personal. I know it's just people sorting guys where they had to be based off their coach scores, based off of any information we could give them. So this is just my chance to prove that I think I deserve to be in a higher division. I think the NPDL is a tough enough league, and I've got some really big wins in that league, enough to show that I think I can play with some pretty high competition. So this season is my chance to show them that, and if I don't do so hot, then that just shows that they put me in the right division. So real quick for the PGO, for the rules they had this season, you drafted 11 Mons worth 115 points each. That means the points ranged anywhere from 1 point all the way up to 19 points, every point value used. There were no 20-point Mons. This is a national Dex league, so a lot of the leagues I've been doing, actually all the leagues I've done on YouTube, have been Galar Dex leagues. This is national Dex, so the cut Mons and Megas that did not make this league, or that did not make other leagues, are in this, but there are no cut moves, so moves such as Hidden Power, Pursuit, Return, and moves like that were cut from the game are not going to be able to be used despite it being national Dex. I personally like that because I think Hidden Power is a little bit broken, and it makes it way too hard to prep because, you know, you just can't prep for Hidden Power most of the time. You can have 1 Mega on your team max, no Z moves or Dynamax are to be used, and then the cool thing about this league is they have something called the Item Clause, which means you can only use 1 item in any given set each week. So if I want to bring a choice scarfed Mon, I can only bring 1. I cannot have 2 choice scarfers. That really does help with bulky teams that want to run lots of leftovers. If you want to have multiple checks, like a Shukaberry to a really good ground type, only 1 of that can be brought. And the really big thing with that is Heavy Duty Boots, that item that basically makes you immune to entry hazards. You can just run a ton of those on a team, and it can be a little bit broken doing that. Not to say it's cheap to do so, but I like the 1 item clause. I think it's a lot of fun, so I'm excited to how that's going to work. And then all the Smogon clauses like Sleep Clause, Endless Battle Clause that you'd expect, the Evasion Clause, etc., etc. You get 5 free agency moves and unlimited trades, and right after the draft we were able to make, we had a 24-hour grace period to make some moves. So in the division I was in, which are the only people that I will be playing, we had 8 coaches. So out of the 8 coaches, I randomly got the number 2 pick. So with my first overall pick, I took Landorus Incarnate. I named it Lando Calrissian. If you know of Lando Calrissian from Star Wars, I thought that was a kind of a cool connection. But I put the sand in there because as you usually see Landorus, you're going to see it used on sand teams, as it does have the ability Sand Force. It's a ground flying type Mon, and it took 19 points, so there were only 2 Mons in the 19-point tier. Landorus, Ion Mew. This Mon is incredibly broken, in my opinion, with Sheer Force, which is allowed. I'm so excited to use Sheer Force Landorus. It's usually banned in almost every league, but some national Dex leagues will allow it because of the power creep of different Mons. But basically, yeah, the Sheer Force ability, as you know, takes away secondary effects of moves but adds 1.3 times damage to that. So if you stack that with a Life Orb, it hits super hard. That means a Stab Earth Power gets a Sheer Force boost, stuff like Sludge Wave, Focus Blast get a Sheer Force boost, things like Psychic get that. As you can see with its stats, it can be a mixed attacker, so you can go physical or special. On the physical side, it also gets moves like Earthquake, Knockoff, U-Turn, which you're going to see a lot of on this team. And then it gets support moves such as Defog, such as Stealth Rock. It has multiple ways to set up, like Calm Mind, Swords Dance, and Rock Polish. So it's just a very good Mon. It's going to be so much fun to use this season. But a lot of times, you're just going to see this thing clicking Sheer Force boosted Earth Powers into things and just obliterating them. You see those great attack stats, decent defense stats, but nothing to write home about, and a good speed, 101 speed, putting it above that 100 speed tier, which a lot of things do max out, are considered to be good speed. So going on with that, I thought I do need to add a lot of bulk around this, and adding some Wish Passers to have some longevity would be good. Also adding some other hazard setters so that I don't have to rely on this to use Stealth Rock and Defog too often, having other options that can do that. So pick number 2, Jirachi, aka Gemini Cricket, was a good thing for that. Covers a lot of those things that I just said. Gemini Cricket's name being, if you remember, Gemini Cricket was When You Wish Upon a Star from, I don't even remember what movie, Pinocchio. And so it's a wishing star Pokemon, but also Gemini being a star zodiac sign. I know nothing about that. I just thought it was a cool name that could kind of make a pun out of. But as you can see, 16 points puts us up to 35 points spent overall. Psychic and Steel type being pretty cool, because Psychic is a good offensive type and Steel is a great defensive type, probably the best. Great ability, Serene Grace boosts a lot of its moves. Serene Grace is almost kind of the opposite of Sheer Force in that it doubles the secondary effect of a move. So a 30% Iron Head flinches 60% of the time now. Flash Cannon or Psychic, which usually have a 10% chance to drop special defense, now have a 20% chance. It gets a lot of coverage moves like Energy Ball, it gets Icy Wind, it gets U-Turn, which is fantastic. It gets some other good special coverage moves like Aura Sphere, Shadow Ball. So you can run some cool Calm Mind sets, and as you can see, those stats very evenly spread across the board. Jirachi can do anything. It can be offensive, it can be setup, it can be a choice user, decent breaker, it can pivot around. Good Clericmon because it gets the move Wish, and it is able to set up Stealth Rocks, which is very huge, having 2 rockers off the get-go, and having my first Wish Passer on the team. So I'm really excited with how that's going. Coming in at number 3, we've got Multrace, aka Fox the Phoenix from Harry Potter, you already know. And by the way, you see that shiny symbol by their names. That does mean I'm planning to use them shiny. So Landorus will be shiny. Jirachi will not be shiny because I don't like it shiny. And Multrace will be shiny. I think it looks pretty cool. It's a fire and flying type, so that's 2 flying types off the get-go. But the flying type between ground flying and fire flying doesn't add any extra weaknesses between the two. For example, Multrace is neutral to ice, and Landorus is immune to electric. What we do have to worry about, though, and then Rock is neutral on Landorus, but we do have to worry about is that they are both weak to water. So I'm going to have to patch that later. But I love the ability Flame Body on Multrace, and Pressure is really great too. But basically what we're running into is a lot of mons that are great in Draft League, like Rillaboom, like Scizor, like Mega Scizor, like Melmetal, like even Tapu Bulu to an extent. A lot of physical attacking mons that have specific types really can kind of get walled by a Flame Body mon with this type, and it can roost off so much damage. Now we do have to worry about things having electric or rock type coverage. This is also great for fighting types to switch in on, but just that threat of a 30% Flame Body burn, not to mention Moltres has other ways to burn with Will-O-Wisp and Scorching Sands. You look at those stats, HP is pretty good, defense is pretty good, and special defense is decent, and you look at those and think that's not that great of a defensive mon, but just the fact that it has Roost and can run heavy duty boots to take away that Fire Flying Stealth Rock's weakness makes it actually a very good defensive mon, because it can roost off damage, and that 125 special attack, it can dish out damage back really well. I was surprised I was taking this early, but I just thought it was a good value pick at 10 points. And there were a lot of other threats that I thought I could get farther down the list. I just thought this would be such a good add-on to the team. And as you can see, we're 3 for 3 on pivoting. All 3 of these mons so far get U-turn, and Moltres does add another Defogger. So I've already got 2 Defoggers and 2 Stealth Rockers, some decent hazard control out of that. Next up at number 4, we've got Megalopunny, and as I was getting close to my pick again, I was really scared this would get sniped, so I was actually very scared that snagging Moltres at 3rd was a bad idea, but it did fall to me. I named Megalopunny Venus, because if you think of this, you kind of think of 2 things. This Lopunny looks very sporty in its mega form, but it's also seen to be a very beautiful Pokemon. So Venus is not only the name of Venus Williams, one of the greatest women's tennis players of all time, very athletic, but also Venus was the Roman name of Aphrodite, who is known as the beautiful goddess, basically. I'm hoping I'm remembering that right. I didn't actually Google that, but I'm pretty sure Venus is the Roman form of the Greek mythological goddess Aphrodite. The normal fighting type might seem kind of underwhelming and weird together, but with the ability Scrappy, normal and fighting moves can hit ghost types. So there are not many switch-ins to the combination of normal and fighting with Megalopunny, and it does get a lot of cool moves to go with that. You get multiple forms of priority being Fake Out and Quick Attack. It did lose the move Return, which hurt it. It can run something like Mega Kick, which is very powerful but inaccurate. It could run Facade if it's statused. It could run something like Headbutt to try to get flinches. It could run Last Resort if it's used all of its moves. For fighting moves, it does get Power Up Punch, which gives it an attack boost. And now it gets Close Combat. It used to have to rely on High Jump Kick, but now that it gets Close Combat, it's much more easy to just kind of spam that move. On top of that, they also added U-Turn to its arsenal in Gen 8, so I've got 4 Mons who can pivot around. Looking at those stats, it's not super defensive, though its base defense stats are not bad, and that attack stat is just amazing, and that speed stat of 135 is also fantastic. You can look at this, you can actually run it Adamant a lot because it's so fast, which just gives it even more attack power. The last ability thing I wanted to talk about is that before you Mega Evolve, having Limber and Cute Charm can both be useful. Klutz is not useful at all. So that's Venus, who will be the shiny megalopunny. I think it's going to do a ton of work. I think teams are going to have a lot of trouble switching into this and Landorus I. So coming in at number 5, we got Blaster Oogway. I added some bulk to the team, but this also can be an offensive threat. Blastoise I've ran on multiple teams before. I've had it in NPDL and TPA. Named it Blaster Oogway. It's going to be shiny. 9 points for this I think is a pretty good deal. Pure water type being a good defensive type, but also being able to hit a lot of things offensively. Its abilities, Torrent and Rain Dish. I don't think anyone in my league drafted Rain, so I doubt I'll be running that often. But Torrent's nice if we get in a pinch. Water-type moves are boosted. And you see those bulky stats. 79 HP is not amazing, but paired with 100 defense and 105 special defense, I think makes it a very, very good defensive Mon. 83 and 85 attack means it's usable on both sides, but not amazing on either side. And 78 speed's not great, but it does kind of help out our speed tiers going down a little bit. But it gets the move Shell Smash now, so that 83 and 85 special attack and attack mean it can be either way on a Shell Smash set. But I do love running it defensively. It's great with leftovers. It's an amazing Assault Vest user. It's good with weakness berries. And it can be just a good attacker. You can run choice items on it. The fact that it got Flip Turn is amazing, so now it can pivot. 5 for 5 on pivoters, baby! I love that. I love that we can pivot with every Mon so far, but Flip Turn's just so great for a bulky water type. And as we already know, it's a great rapid spinner, which takes a little pressure off of my 2 defoggers. I love me some Blastoise. It's no War Turtle, but it is stronger. So next up we got Jirachi. I've never used Jirachi. Actually, looking at my team so far, never used Landorus I in Draft League. I've used it in a tournament. I've used Jirachi once for I think half a season. Never used multrace, never used megalopunny, and I've used Blastoise a few times. I've never used Jirachi, so I'm really excited to use it. Only 7 points I think is good because this thing can be an absolute nuke. I named it Danger Kelp because I thought Danger Kite was a funny nickname with Gyarados. I wanted to stick on that theme. Danger Kelp, the Kelp Dragon, but Dragon and Poison is a really cool typing. Since a lot of times a Fairy can switch in on a Draco Meteor or Dragon Pulse, now you got to worry about a Sludge Bomb or Sludge Wave, and adaptability boosted. It hits so hard. Even though its special attack is not super amazing, it's very good. But man, adaptability basically gives it an extra 50% power boost to stab moves. So if I'm thinking right, as long as Dragon or Poison hits neutrally, it should hit as if it were super effectively. I could be wrong on that, but it also gets Poison Point, Poison Touch. Poison Point's not bad, since it can be a very defensive Mon. You can run a lot of cool items on it. It's great with Black Sludge to get some recovery. It's great with Assault Vest. I think it's an amazing choice specs user. It's a cool Life Orb user, and obviously with like a Shuka Berry, Weakness Berry type thing can be really good too. So there's a lot you can do with it, but not a great HP, but it has a good defense and an amazing special defense to pair with a very good special attack. A usable attack, though you really don't want to use physical except to flip turn around. And then its speed is slow, but once again, we got to have that. It's nice to have slow and fast mons for speed tiers. But yeah, it gets Toxic Spikes, and it's a grounded poison that absorbs Toxic Spikes. Hits very hard with its stab moves. It does also get things like Surf and Scald, which are cool. Obviously, as I said, it gets flip turn, so we're 6 for 6 on pivoters, which kind of just kept coming to me. Like, I love mons that can pivot, but like I didn't plan it out this thoroughly. I was just kind of getting lucky. But I was happy to have it. A lot of dragons are really higher tier. I think a low tier dragon can be really useful, especially if you just with all the things it resists is really cool, because actually poison and dragon are both very good defensive typings. Next up we got Slurpuff, Sweet Caroline. By the way, these two will both be shiny. I've used this before. I think in TPA. I think I used it in PDL as well, so I've used it a lot. 9 points I think is really good for all the things it can bring to the table. I'm up to 87 out of 115 points, so I've used a lot. Going to have to find some value picks down the stretch, but a good fairy type. Now I have my Fairy Dragon Steel Core, working on the Fire Water Grass Core, and so far I have Fighting and Psychic, if you're looking at like a Fighting, Psychic, and Dark core. So I do need a Grass and a Dark still, but really good HP. Decent HP. It's not great, but pretty good defense. Really good defense. Usable special defense, usable speed, good special attack, and good attack. Gets multiple ways to set up with Calm Mind and Belly Drum, which both pair really nicely with Unburden. Sweet Veil, if I remember right, keeps it from falling asleep. So decent fairy type. This is a Wish Passer, which makes me really excited to have 2 good Wish Passers now. This is also a Sticky Web user, so on top of 2 Rockers, I now also have Toxic Spikes and Sticky Web. And this thing can set up with Belly Drum and hit you with Play Rough and Drain Punch, but on the special side it has good coverage. Dazzling Gleam, Flamethrower, Surf, Energy Ball, really kind of just hits everything. I think it gets electric moves like Thunderbolt and Thunder too. So really cool setup with that, but I do see it as a really good support mon. So, though it can be offensive as well, and obviously it is going to be shiny. Next up we got Reggie Rock, the Boulder. If you like Avatar: The Last Airbender, you know. Not going to be shiny. 5 points I think is really good value for the bulk we get from this. Another Stealth Rock user, which really helps out. Take some pressure off of Jirachi and Landorus to be able to do other things. Pure Rock type, which is actually like not amazing defensively, but with its stats, it helps out. Sturdy and Clear Body both being really good abilities. It can't be one-hit KO'd, which with those defensive stats is hard to do anyway. But if something's set up, that could come in handy. But Clear Body is just really nice. Can't drop its defense, can't drop its attack with Intimidate. So good HP paired with an amazing defense and a really good special defense. Its special attack is bad. You don't need that. Its speed is not good, but it can outspeed a lot of really defensive things, but it can also be slow enough that like in Trick Room or I think it might get counter. So things like that could be good, but an 100 attack is pretty good too. You can throw on a Choice Band and do some stuff. It's a good Assault Vest user. It's a really good Stealth Rock user. A lot of people like running Resto Chesto sets with this. It does get something like Curse to set up, and now it has Body Press, which I think helps it out a lot because Body Press goes off your defense rather than your offense. So that's an 80 base fighting move that from a 200 base defense. It's going to hit very hard, but it also does get like its Rock Slide and Stone Edge for stab. It gets things like Earthquake. It gets Drain Punch for a little bit of recovery. So really it does pretty good, and that's why it can run lots of different sets. Obviously it's 5 points for a reason. It is slow. It is, you know, weak to a lot of common types like Fighting, Water, Grass, stuff like that. Weak to Steel. But I think it's really good for its value, and I do think it's something I can bring multiple times. At 9, I still had a decent amount of points if I could go pretty low with my last 2. So I went ahead and spent 11 points on Zarude, who I named Optimus Primate. Great nickname, I know. Not going to be shiny, but it fills my Dark and Grass, so I complete those main 2, or I complete 2 of those cores. I already had the Dragon Fairy Steel. Its ability's bad, Leaf Guard. It's only useful in Sun, and unless we run a fun Sunny Day set with this in multrace, which we could, it's not super useful, and I don't know if anyone I'm facing drafted Sun. I can't remember, but it's got good stats, and it gets some really good moves to take advantage of to let it use multiple items. 105 base HP is very good with a 105 defense, and really a 95 special defense is good with a 105 HP. So it actually can take hits. I tried to get a lot of mons that had some good bulk. That way, if none of them were walls, they could at least be built to take a lot of hits. 120 base attack is very good, even uninvested. That means it can hit hard, and it does get things like bulk up to boost its attack and defense. 70 special attack is not good, but it does get Nasty Plot, so that makes it usable. 105 speed means it is above average speed and can outrun a lot of things. Unfortunately, it does not get Knockoff or Sucker Punch. That's the 2 biggest things against it. It also doesn't get Leech Seed, which I like on a grass type. So there were a lot of grass types I want, but this giving me a good grass and dark type that can be offensive or defensive, I thought was really good. And that adds another pivoter. Our last few mons did not pivot, but 6. So this makes our 7th pivoter. It getting U-Turn. It gets moves like Power Whip and Seed Bomb as grass moves. As dark type moves, it does get Darkest Lariat, which avoids stat changes, and then it gets Crunch, which can drop defense, but also just a decently powerful move. But I think Darkest Lariat is a better move for it. It gets U-turn, it gets close combat, which is really nice. It does get rock slide. I can't remember if it gets stone edge. Its special move, jungle healing, is kind of cool. Basically, it's aromatherapy in that you get rid of your stat changes, but your status changes. So if you get burnt, you can heal your own burn. But it doesn't do it for your whole team, just for anyone who's your teammate on the field. So it works better in doubles, but it's still usable in singles, and it heals, I think, 25% of your HP. So it's kind of like Life Dew plus aromatherapy, but just for your mon that's in. It does get synthesis to help heal itself, so I think it has a lot of use. I think it's a great choice band and choice scarf user. I think it can be a really good assault vest user. It can obviously set up with bulk up, and I think with like a weakness berry, it could be something that could just take hits from something too. And seriously, watch out. You could run a nasty plot set with this, and it could actually be pretty cool. So that's just something to think about. But I do like this mon a lot. I'm excited to use it. I've never used it before. Coming up with Raichu, who I've used a million times before, whether in its normal or alolan form. I always try to name it Chocolate Thunder, and it is going to be shiny. Only 5 points, which is good for a fast electric type. It gives me an immunity with Lightning Rod, immune to electric types, and status is a 30% chance to paralyze on contact. Now, it doesn't take physical hits well either way. But even if it faints, if it can static something, that's kind of cool. So I do have static, poison point, and flame body. So those are all kind of cool things you can kind of run to try to get a little lucky. Bad HP, bad defense, but it's got good enough attacks, especially since it can nasty plot up its special attack. Okay, special defense and a very good speed. This helps bridge the gap up to megalopunny between Zarude a little bit. So yeah, 350 max speed is pretty good. It does get Volt Switch, so there's my 8th pivoter, which I love. It gets Thunderbolt, it gets Discharge, it can get things like Nuzzle and Thunderwave to paralyze things. It gets Yawn, which I think is really cool for it. It can force some switches or just put something to sleep. It does obviously get Toxic, it gets Screens. But yeah, I think Nasty Plot with like Surf, Grass Knot, Focus Blast, Thunderbolt is really cool. But it can run physical things too. Volt Tackle is a very powerful electric move that only the Pikachu line gets. It does get knockoff. Having a knockoff users is always nice. It gets extreme speed, which is kind of cool. Like, is it me or is that sounding kind of like a cool choice banded set? But then also it gets Volt Switch for that, which I've already said. It gets Dig, which I guess you can include. I think it gets things like Brick Break, and I think it gets Focus Punch, so like maybe if you're behind a sub, that could be cool. But I just think it's a really good value mon. I've ran it so many times because of that. You get low on points. You consider a high electric type, but I'm like, a lot of them are fast and brittle anyway. I love Raichu. I love having it on the squad. And then the last one, I drafted Ursula, but I used one of my... You basically got, I think, unlimited free agency moves during the 24-hour grace period. I only made one because I liked my team, but I drafted Ursula because I thought, hey, I don't have a ghost type. Hey, it's a powerful special attacker, good special defense. Another Stealth Rock user. Can run some cool things with like Perish Body and Whirlpool, Strength Sap Toxic to wear things down. So I thought there were a lot of cool options, but it got pointed out to me by some friends that were helping me look at my team that basically just said having another ground type on your team would be really good to take pressure off of Landorus to be an electric switch in, especially since Raichu is pretty brittle and Zarude can switch in on electric, but once again, it was really nice to have a defensive ground type, so I decided to drop it for Quagsire. It was between Quagsire and Palo Sand, and they both brought different things. Palo Sand having Stealth Rocks and being a spin blocker, they both get recovery, but Quagsire I just thought was a better defensive option with both a water immunity and unaware. So I decided to add Quagsire, who I named Quagatha, to the team. I didn't name Ursula because I didn't have it long enough, but it's a water ground type, which means it is immune to electric type moves. Water Absorb also makes it immune to water, which I think is really great. Its only weakness being grass, which I have switches like Dragalge and Multrace and Jirachi for, and Freeze Dry, which that just has to be an ice type running that, so we'll have our prep ready for that. It does have Damp as an ability, but you're not going to see that ran much. I think at 7 points it's good value because it is just such a good defensive mon. It's really hard to break with its Recover, Toxic Stall, shenanigans, but Unaware is just great because something starts Dragon Dancing, something starts Calm Minding, you can kind of just sit in front of it and hit it back or Toxic it or Yawn. It gets Yawn, which is just really good. It can really help stop setup sweepers. As you can see, its stats are not good. 95 HP is good. 85 defense is pretty good. 65 special defense and special attack are bad. 85 attack is obviously pretty good and usable, and then 35 speed. It doesn't matter that it's slow, it's defensive, and you want something kind of slow anyway. But just looking at this, it's still very usable. Once again, like we said with multrace, a lot of times having recovery can make up for not as great of defensive stats. So as you can see, it's going to be able to do a lot of things like that. Despite its bad special attack, Scald is still a threat because it can Scald burn things. But it does, it hits pretty hard with like something like Earthquake still. I think probably gets rock moves, even though it doesn't get stealth rock, which is disappointing. So I do only have the 3 stealth rockers, which is still pretty good. Something else, you can run like curse sets with this to where it's boosting its attack and defense. And after a while, like, actually is going to start hitting pretty hard with things like Earthquake and I don't know what water, Liquidation, Waterfall, Aqua Tail, whatever water move it is that it gets. By the way, I didn't mention on Blastoise, it gets Aqua Jet, so there's some priority. Obviously, Quagsire didn't get this. I was just thinking about my 2 water types, so I'm a big fan of what Quagsire can do. Even bigger fan of just not having to face it this year is always a good thing. So that is the squad. Here it is right there. You can see them all together on the screen. Let me know what you think. I think it has a lot of good diversity. You see lots of setup options. Shell Smash, Blastoise, Earthquake, Calm Mind, or sorry, Swords Dance or Calm Mind on Landorus, Calm Mind on Jirachi, Curse on Reggie Rock or Quagatha. You got Bulk Up, you got Nasty Plot, you got Power Up Punch Spam. I got some really good breakers, being an adaptability mon, being a sheer force mon. We got amazing pivoting. What is it, like 5 U-turners, 2 flip turners, and a volt switcher I love. I technically have 3 wish passers because I forgot to mention that Raichu also gets wish, though I think it's not a great wish passer, but I think Jirachi and Slurpuff can be very good. I do have just some self-healing, things like Roost, things like Recover, things like Synthesis on the squad, and then I obviously have my 3 rockers, my 2 defoggers, yeah, my 2 defoggers and a rapid spinner, so I think my hazard control is good. I have a Toxic Spikes user and Toxic Spikes absorber, and then a Sticky Web user, which I didn't really talk much about Sticky Web, but I do think that helps out something like Zarude, something like Landorus and Jirachi to all be blazingly fast with those webs up, and then can even make something like Blastoise or even Dragalge like faster than something it normally wouldn't be. So overall, I love the team. And then the last thing to address is I have rebranded back to the Tennessee Titan Growths. I'm doing it for this league. I'm doing it for the MPDL. So just a little history. MPDL Seasons 1 and 2, I was the Oregon Psyducks. Season 2, I made the finals and lost, and I was like, for some reason, let's rebrand. And I came up with the Tennessee Titan Growths, had a different logo back then, but I thought it was a cool team. I used it for a few seasons of the MPDL, and I used it for when I joined the TPA. So both championships I won in the TPA, then the one I lost was as the Tennessee Titan Growths. And then I became the Utah Copperajahs because a lot of us in the MPL decided, like, hey, let's rebrand to a Gen 8 Pokemon for the release of Galar. Thought it would be fun. And Utah Copperajahs, however I say it, it just doesn't roll off the tongue as well. I didn't like my logo that I had made as well, and then someone made me this Titan Growths logo, which I thought was way cooler, and it just rolls off the tongue. It's easier to say, and I like the Tennessee Titans a lot. So I just decided to go back. So this is my team going forward, unless I decide to alternate it for a different league. But yeah, this is my team for the PGO Rider Division. I'll play 8 games, then go to the playoffs. Maybe I'll play 7 games. Either way, let me know. Record prediction, how do you think my team looks? Are there any changes I should make? Who's going to be the team MVP? I'll be honest with you, I've already actually played 1 match earlier today, just because I couldn't get around to recording. Not going to give any spoilers on what happened, but yeah, I love the squad. I'm excited to use it. I think I got a lot of good things, but if we ever have to make moves, I do have 5 free agency moves I can use. Regardless, guys, I'm going to hop on out of here. Thank you so much for stopping by, watching this video. Please do like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like I deserved it. If you don't, that's okay. I still thank you for stopping by. But I want you to have yourself a great night. I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Peace.